and we'll begin with our locations east of North America. Anyone is in those locations.
Hi, this is Davina Misrock calling in from London, England.
Hi, Davina.
Hi.
And I think that might be all of east of North America. Let's begin with
No.
South Africans.
East and South. Louise Brumbo from Johannesburg, South Africa.
Okay, Louise, I didn't want to miss you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes, it's Arno and Mia and Laura from Johannesburg, South Africa. Hello, Louise. Nice to see you.
Hi there, Arno, Mia, Lauren. Hi there. Okay. Eastern time zone. So who's in our Eastern time zone?
This is Lucille in Monterey, North Carolina.
Hi, Lucille.
No.
Carol Smith in Atlanta.
Hi, Carol.
And Terry and Robert Kaufman in Atlanta.
Hi, Robert and Terry, my neighbors.
Holiday and Angela Wilderman in Atlanta.
Hi, Millie and Angela. Great to have you.
And this is Bill and Linda Bay in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hi, Bill and Linda. Okay, let's move on to Central Time Zone.
Alan Geisinger near Austin, Texas.
Hi, Alan. Okay, let's move over to Mountain Time Zone.
Suzanne Kaur in Central Colorado. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Suzanne.
Ron Beard and Shirley Collins.
Hi, Ron. Hi, Shirley.
Mary Janik in Denver.
Hi, Mary. Remember to mute your phones or mute your devices. Okay, we'll move over to Pacific Time Zone.
This is Jim Crowner, just a little southeastern of Yelm, Washington.
Hi, Jim.
Mary Kyle in Redmond, Washington.
Hi, Mary.
John and Pamela Gray, Lake Elsinore, California.
Hi, John and Pam.
Luann Summers in Riverside, California today.
Hi, Luann.
Gloria Rubin, Desert Hot Springs, California.
Okay, great to be. Hi, Gloria.
And I'm in their area as well. Good day. I'm Stuart Berger near downtown Los Angeles in the city of Norwalk, California.
All right, Stuart.
Daniel Cartwright in Portland, Oregon. Morning, all.
Hi, Daniel.
Laura Fisher from Sun Peaks, British Columbia, Canada.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, David and Ann up in British Columbia as well.
I'm David and Ann. Okay, any locations west of the Pacific Time Zone? Okay, I think we're good to go. Actually, Laura and Pamela will be focusing our time, and I pass it over to you. Laura, Pam.
Thank you. Holy, holy, holy. Lord God Almighty. Early in the morning, our song shall rise to thee. Holy, holy, holy. Merciful and mighty, Lord of creation, God eternally.
Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty. All thy works shall praise thy name in earth and sky and see. Holy, holy, holy. Merciful and mighty. Lord of creation. God eternally.
I would like to draw your attention to the supreme gift which all of us have had opportunity to receive. Perhaps it might be said that in many respects, it was spoiled. Martin continued in the service he gave on November 29th, 1987, and which he titled The Supreme Gift. The gift of which I speak is the spirit of our King. This has been offered over many years in many ways. The word has been spoken, the tone sounded, the gift made freely available. Each of us here gathered this morning, this evening, this afternoon, is quite aware of this, I'm sure. What has been done with that gift? What has been done with that gift? To what extent has it been received? There is a habit at Christmas time for people to give gifts to one another. And usually in these days, those gifts are not wrapped in newspaper. There is very fancy paper available and ribbons and bows available to decorate the wrapping. Most of us, I suppose, upon receiving a gift, may admire the wrapping, but we're probably more interested in finding out what that gift is. I think there has been a tendency with respect to this gift of which I've been speaking, the spirit of the King, to leave it a good deal under wraps. We know what the gift is, or at least we think we do. We have evidence of it, the wrapping, the decorations. But to what extent has that gift been opened up and received for what it really is? There have been many associated with this emissary ministry over the years who appreciated the wrapping and the freshness that was maintained in that regard. But we all know that it is the gift itself that is important. But it has little importance unless it's received. The wrapping's removed, so to speak, so it may be present with us and in our immediate experience, the spirit of the King. No doubt we have received something of this into our living. That's what the gift is for. And have been blessed thereby, which could well be the cause for thanksgiving. The total receiving of this gift would engender total thanksgiving. If total thanksgiving is present, then obviously there could be no complaint. As I say, the word has been spoken quite consistently, I believe. I think it has been spoken just about as much as could be borne, and the tone sounded so all might hear. To know the spirit of the King, we all realize that it must be received into expression. Here is the most magnificent gift that could possibly be given to anyone. Here is the most magnificent gift that could possibly be given to anyone. The spirit of thanksgiving has been increasing in recent months and years, and that increase has come because the gift has been received into the living experience of those who are thereby caused to be thankful. The suggestion was made that we could well articulate our thankfulness, particularly whenever it seems that we would have something to complain about or to object to. Perhaps this is a small technique that could be used profitably. But the fact of the matter is that when the gift is received and the spirit of King finds expression in our living, the spirit of thankfulness is known. We don't have to hype it up. It's part of the gift. The gift is for radiant use. It's an outpouring of radiation. And to the extent we have participated in the expression of the spirit of the King, we know this. It makes possible radiant vision. That's the way we see things, no longer looking in the mirror. With radiant vision, there comes radiant perception through all the faculties that we have heretofore been used to examine the reflection in the mirror. Our ability to see, to perceive, is not for the purpose of receiving and being affected by what we see. The eyes are not merely present to acquaint us with what seems to be present in the environment and the circumstance. This is about all human eyes are used for. Let's have a look. But the eye is a radiant instrument. That is its primary reason for existence, not in order that we might get something out of our apparent environment because we're able to see it, but to permit radiance to shine forth. The mind, which has been busy doing the interpreting of what comes through the eye and through other senses, is, we know, rightly a window of heaven, not a mirror. It is a window through which the light may shine. When this is the case, Lucifer is restored to heaven. The light shines forth, and what is seen radiantly. Part of that seeing, we noted this morning, is the working of the creative process, a radiant vision based in the shining of the light, which reveals what it is that is being brought forth in the creative process. We don't need a reflection of something to understand that. The mirror mind is the satanic mind. There is so much reflection present in the mirror that has blocked the shining of the light. The mirror mind creates separation. Incidentally, the mirror mind has been busy creating a self for itself. We have experience of this. This self is produced by gathering a great deal of material out of the past. We have what is called heredity. All this material is brought along and composes the main part of the mind itself. And out of this comes the sense of self, which the mind is busy creating. We all have that sense of human self, well established, a human creation, coming up out of the subconscious mind and added to assiduously by the conscious mind. There are these characters walking around on earth, mind-made characters. And the mind thereby gains the sense of self and of identity. It's all artificial. This has been done over many generations and is accepted as being so by each newborn person quite rapidly. This self is a mirror self, reflecting all these elements out of the past. Of course, this is reinforced by general human agreement when a baby is given a name. This is now who you are. As I say, it's reinforced because the name is registered. And particularly in these days, sundry other registrations take place as the years go by, so that the person is more and more convinced of this mind-made identity. Everybody accepts it as being so, both for themselves and for each other. There is a general agreement. But because the majority may vote for it, doesn't make it so. This, of course, is the usual human approach in these days. And what the majority says must be right, majority rule, and politics gets all mixed up in this. There's lots of political entities around, but entities of all kinds, mind created. This is consequent upon the fact of the mirror mind, which deals in the material that is reflected. That's the material that is available to build this human identity.
But now we are aware of the window mind. The window mind has to need at all to create an identity. Because what shines through the window mind is the identity. It isn't mind-made identity. It isn't even heaven-made identity. It is the one identity, namely the one I am. This is all a mystery to the mirror mind, but it's clear as day to the window mind. The window mind is Lucifer. The mirror mind is Satan. As long as attention is taken up with what is reflected in the mirror, Satan prevails and Lucifer is unknown. As the window mind begins to put in an appearance, it does so because there is shining of the light. The shining of the light illuminates the scene. And the scene is not at all as it was deemed to be in the mirror. It is a heavenly scene. It is a radiant scene. And there's no separation in what it is that puts in an appearance. We speak of heaven and earth as though they were two separate things. They are not. They are aspects of one thing. And when there is a window mind and the light is shining through it, one thing is seen. One thing is known. That one thing is the truth. We come again with Lucifer present because the light shines. That has something to do with an emissary of divine light. I believe the truth of that. One doesn't know the truth of it just by mouthing the words, but the truth of that reveals the king. It reveals the king in his kingdom. One thing. The king is not separate from his kingdom. He didn't go on a journey. He's always been present in his kingdom. We haven't known that because we haven't been present in it. But once again, receiving this gift without trying to manipulate it, but letting the light shine, there is an easy awareness of what it is that is the gift really. Mention was made earlier of a gift which was available at the beginning, but which the mind was inclined to think it could work with. It seems to me that emissaries have had the idea of working with things, and that we have minds so that we can think. Think what? Who's going to do the thinking? Is the mind not the window of heaven in the hands of the king, so that the light shining through it enables vision and understanding as to what it is that's happening in the creative process? Once there begins to be that, there's no necessity to try to manipulate something. It's found to be beautiful, just wonderful. Well, what one has seen at the point of initiation is not all that will be seen as the light shines and the creative process continues. But what puts in an appearance doesn't put in an appearance because the mind is manipulating anything, but because there begins to be a unification with the spirit of the king. That is what is moving. It moves us. And we find that it is a natural experience. Now we know. Now we know what it is that needs to happen. What it is that is actually happening. And we can participate in the process. It unfolds. It's a delicate thing. It requires perception. But the perception is impossible without the shining of the light. The understanding only puts in an appearance because the light shines. And that requires the window mind. A very far cry from the mirror mind. Utilizing the mirror mind, we look into it and we see all sorts of things reflected there. And such things usually claim a person's attention. But they're just a reflection in the absence of the window mind. They're evidence of the absence of the window mind. Why pay so much attention to the reflection then? it doesn't mean a thing. It isn't really anything. It's just a reflection. Let the reflection pass away, and you have a clear glass through which the light may shine. And there may be participation in the creative process because the King is present. He's the one that participates in the creative process. It isn't the mind. It isn't that arrogant creature which imagines that its thinking is so important. The mind presently, I suspect, would imagine that it has no purpose at all if it wasn't for thinking the way it is used to be thinking. It has a purpose as a clear glass, transparent, doing nothing of itself. A complete absence of opinion. Then the light shines through. Heaven and earth are seen to be one. Not two separate entities, just one. I don't think we have a word for that unless perhaps we speak of the kingdom of the King, which includes all that is. The window mind is Lucifer. The morning stars sing together. That's an easy and natural experience. And the sons and daughters of God shout for joy in the radiant outpouring of the Spirit of the King. There can be no outpouring without the window. We may speak of these things. This is the wrapping of the gift. Receive the gift now and consequently forever. Holy, holy, holy. Mentally, we have been all so brash. The sea of glass, clear as crystal, which was mentioned, is before the throne of God. Lucifer, the transparent mind through which the King speaks his word and sounds the tone of life. In all we do, sensitive perception is needed to discern what it is that is ready to be born or brought forth. It's said that fools rush in where angels are cautious because they wait to see, to discern what is needful. Always the right atmosphere is required at the point of initiation of anything. Then one may wait and become aware of what it is that is needful. If one doesn't do this, one will surely go off on a tangent, as it was put. The creative process continues to work. And if we're amenable, it will bring us back off that tangent eventually. But why waste time as though it was necessary to the creative process? It isn't. The creative process is very forgiving. And if one doesn't go too far off on a tangent, it will bring you back. But there's a point of no return. Obviously, it's working through all this stuff on earth to get the job done. So we share the responsibility of doing what we're here to do so that the job can be done. But it's done by the Spirit of the King, working in the creative process. It's not done by the bright ideas of the human mind. We share such an easy responsibility. It's not taxing anyone. You don't have to have a great intellect. As long as you have a mind at all, that's all right. The intellect is arrogant and uses itself to its own ends. The window mind is humble and open to the radiance of the King, which shines forth, creating the atmosphere needful. And as perceptiveness is developed in the light, what needs to happen can happen easily without any necessity to go off on any tangents. One can rationalize that, saying, well, the creative process is working. Yes, it was. It did its job if it brought you back, but why did you go out there in the first place? As I say, the Spirit of the King working in the creative process is very forgiving. It always has been, or we wouldn't be here at all. Let us not trade on that forgiveness, but learn to let the light shine radiantly, consistently, so that what needs to be seen can be seen. And what we see is what is coming forth. We encompass what's coming forth. We don't try to manipulate it. We don't try to make it be something other than what it is. There's no need for all this mental thrashing around. There is that which is born moment by moment. And we learn to shepherd it into radiant expression. Because the radiance is there. We see what's happening. We don't see what we don't need to see. We just see what we need to see. I think we can be very thankful for that. There's no need to be all cluttered up like we were. We share the outpouring of the radiance of the King. And we love that above all. Again, I speak of these things. We need to know the truth of them because we receive the gift unto ourselves in our own living. There's no other real fulfillment possible.
There is no other real fulfillment possible. Here we are together. Thank you so much, Pam. Together with our King, with Martin's words amongst us, and a mighty challenge. Do we have a courage? The courage that's required to let our thinking be completely different? To be divinely inspired? To have a complete absence of opinion? That would be a new world. A complete absence of opinion. Do we have the courage to not use all our book learning when we're looking at something? This morning, to honor all of you, to honor the service, I decided to try out this radiant seeing, this radiant perception. And I went out into my beautiful garden and I radiantly viewed the ground cover there. It was really quite amazing how the lime green of the creeping Jenny just leaped out at me. I've never seen lime green like that. And it's been there all along. And the purple flowers were so purple. The living essence of those plants were singing with my radiant view of them. We're supposed to be the crowning creation. This is part of what that means. We radiate outward with our eyes because our mind is still, our mind is settled in the court of the King. We rest in complete assurance that that is so. I have a brilliant friend. She's an Ayurvedic practitioner and her name is Erica. She's studying for her doctorate of Ayurvedic medicine. This takes some mind attention. So it's a very complex system. And she asked me what I was doing, and I told her I was giving service on Sunday. And I told her what the process was. We would read from Martin's words, and then we would speak. And she said, "Aren't you lucky to have such a starting point?" And it actually made me cry in her presence. Aren't we lucky to have such a starting point? Most of the thinking is done for us. This ability to let the mind rest in the comfort of the kingdom of our King brings forth, you could call it new thought, but it's actually thought that hasn't been on this earth for a very long time. And it's thought that the earth is just literally screaming for in these days. I can hear the screams. Please, somebody do something different. And here we are. We have been bathed in something different 7 times 7. I did a little math. Do you know it's been almost 90 years since Yolanda first spoke words of truth and wisdom? Almost 89 years. And just look what's been gathered together. The purity of the people that's been gathered together. We're all leaders, and we know we're leaders. Remember that ad, Leaders Wanted, men and women of the highest integrity. So here we are, us leaders. And we're responsible to create an atmosphere that liberates other people. We're not responsible to tell them who they are, what they're doing wrong, or et cetera, et cetera. I think that could be classified as opinion. We're responsible to liberate them from their own thinking processes. We bring forth the elegance of God's design. There's another famous quote by Lao Tzu. The people, leadership is best when the people say, we did this ourselves. And that is our job, to let the mind reorganize itself, clean itself up, let the opinions go elsewhere, wherever bad opinions go, or good opinions, and bring forth the inspiration to let others inspire themselves, and so they inspire their world. That's our job, and none of us would say we haven't been trained for that. It's such a pleasure to be with you this morning. It's a pleasure to gaze upon you and to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. It's indeed a pleasure to speak as one. Speak these words as one. We have a shared spiritual history together, all of us that I can see on this screen. And we've seen many cycles that have been broken, looking at the past spiritual history. And I was thinking of the saddest words in the Bible during the crucifixion, not because of that aspect of the crucifixion, but because what wasn't seen by people. Just 2 words, he wept. He wept. And in these words we just shared, coming at the end of Martin's ministry, some other sad words, 3 words. It was spoiled. And both those statements have to do with the carrying through of the word. Obviously, not all was lost, not all was spoiled, because there is a remnant of the spiritual body, the Lord's body on earth, that remains vibrant and open to the spirit of the King. And that's why we gather. That's why we gather, to articulate this all together as a collective. And it is the collective carrying through that lands in our lap. And no matter who articulates it, words of truth in times like this, it is that collective. It is because there's evidence of the presence of the King on earth through people. And the words that we read, these words, yes, words spoken, words of truth, of love, of life, because the one who spoke them lived with the presence of the King within. And that's the invitation. That is the gift to be received, to be received. And I was thinking how appropriate that word is, receive. We receive guests into our home. John and I recently have had various ones come and be with us of like mind and like spirit, and sharing in the reality of true friendship, speaking these things. Well, a guest in your home comes and goes, but the receiving is the receiving of the King into my house of being, so that this is his temple. This is where he lives. This is where he speaks through me this morning. And his eyes look upon the world. We see many things, but it's that radiant vision. We see radiantly. We see good and bad and horrific and such unnecessary destruction on earth, because there wasn't a receiving of the gift. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold the reward of the wicked, it is said. And I looked that up because there's more to that. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. Making the Lord thy habitation. He lives and breathes and is in my temple, in my house of being. In the course of the last couple of years, I've seen some people, close-in people, that it might be went into a dark place. And, you know, there wasn't anything that I could do to pull them out of that, no matter how inspirational I spoke to them or attunements I could give. But it's the person that had to bring themselves back. And I've seen that with some close people. I'm thinking of ones, maybe you have seen that too. And you say, they're back. He's back. She's back. And there's rejoicing. There is rejoicing. There's not any opinion about what went wrong, what went before, but there's rejoicing of what is now. Who's here now? That's the rejoicing. And then, as it was put in this service, there comes a point where there's a point of no return. I was thinking of that in the beginning, the garden, and the fall in consciousness, where the consciousness of mankind as a collective consciousness fell because there was the thought of doing one's own self-centered thinking and getting without honoring the Lord. And so there was the hiding. But the safe thing that was in place was the flaming sword that kept safe, and the cherubim that kept safe the garden, kept safe the tree of life. Well, in this day, there's evidence of the rising in consciousness, and we see it with many other people in the world. There's this rising of spiritual consciousness because the remnant has been letting the radiation do the work, and that is rising. The spiritual consciousness is rising. And so now the experience of being in heaven, the experience of radiant living, is such an emphasis in our lives that there's no going back to that other state. That we've come into the experience of garden. It was protected before by the flaming sword, but it's the truth of love, the fire of love that is our passion. And we find ourselves in that state of consciousness. And there's great rejoicing. There's great rejoicing in being together and articulating these things. So we would love to open it up for further radiant conversation.
Pamela and Laura, holy, holy, holy. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant light. What radiance we have shared in this hour and continue to share in this moment, this gift, this present. It dawns on me that I have sometimes thought of the shining of the light as something that was coming at me, which would make it a little difficult to see. I've thought of the shining of the light as something diffuse that happens when you flip on a light switch. Or even as the sun rises over the mountain out my back door each moment and begins to shine the light that makes the shadows and then springs the green into being. What I'm seeing and thinking of in this moment is that the spirit of the king shining radiantly through the Lucifer that I insist my mind provide shines out into my world. I then see that world differently, not because there's light shining into my eyes, but because it's shining out through them. What a simple flip in consciousness of Lucifer. What a precious setting you two have provided for all of us and the world this morning. I am so thrilled to have been here, to be here with each of you, my dear, dear, dear friends. Thank you.
I would offer my thanksgiving to Laura and Pamela. What a precious hour this has been. And I love the spirit and the passion offered through both of you. I feel the spirit of womanhood reawakening on earth. And this is our time, as Yorana had said. The spirit of the woman must lead the way in coming out of this chaos, this fallen state, since she led the way down. And in this time together, I feel such an honoring of the female, not because of female lives matter or Me Too or any self-importance, but because of the love, the true love of the King. And that became very evident in both of you, passionately. And we as women must prepare the way for manhood to be honored and loved, because here is the power of love seeking to manifest honor through the male. And the responsiveness of the female allows this magnification and the expression of life into the body. So what a beautiful opportunity for us, all of us together, to really take stock of what has happened over these past 89 years, you said. Now is the time, and the time is growing short. And I love the emphasis on the fact of no more judgment, releasing all opinions, because that's what makes us trip over one another. We have different opinions, so suddenly something comes up that says, well, I can't agree with that. When the agreement is not designed to be in that realm, but in the heaven, which I am here to bring into the earth. So in tranquility of mind and heart, I can receive anybody's stuff and not be disturbed. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much. I just love this time together. Womanhood is a joy, not a trial.
Laura and Pamela, thank you very much for sharing yourselves with us today. It's been wonderful to hear your voices in all senses of the word voice. your revelation of the word in this moment. Laura, I think you mentioned, both of you did, but I know, Laura, you mentioned radiant perception, and I did some of that myself last night, and I was observing that what I was perceiving was a scattered vibration coming to me, I believe from ones that I'm connected with in the world. And I think it may have to do something with the pandemic. You have some people who are happy that we've reached a certain point where there's a degree of normalcy, but there are other people who I think are still fearful. And I was perceiving an emotion of hopelessness in that respect. And of course, we know that the virus has various variants that are still in play. So what I was observing was a kind of a mixture of these different vibrations. Yolanda used to speak of patterns, vibrational patterns. So yeah, this perception that we have is very valuable for observing what's going on in the world or what may be going on in the world. So I think we can talk with ones we know about how to deal with these things, depending on our position one way or the other. And of course, in connection with this, there are various effects that the pandemic has had economically and socially, and in other ways. So there is a state of flux and uncertainty, but even though we can discuss these issues, we do have the great gift of being open to the Lord, to life, to source, and receiving the message that comes through to and through us in every moment, to receive, as it was put, the heavenly essences, and to translate that or manifest them in natural ways, natural to us, so that we can be a blessing to the world, to those we know, and to the Lord. So thank you very much. It's wonderful to be with you all.
Pamela, Laura, thank you. I've been very moved by the depth of what you both offered and the uniqueness of your own individual passion and spirit, which is beautiful, actually, very beautiful, and not the same at all, and yet one thing. Only with thine eyes shalt thou see the reward of the wicked. Not with thy emotions, not with the entanglement, not with the reaction, not with the response. And Proverbs 3, trust in the Lord with all thy might. Lean not unto thine own understanding. But in all things, I forget the exact words, but it takes something to stand in this moment with you radiantly. Actually, this is another level for me. which I embrace gladly. What I wanted to say is that I have an absolute responsibility. I remember the command which says, not to let anything into my holy place that would work an abomination or a lie. Just living that truth alone, moment to moment, is a full-time job. And of these few words that I've been speaking, I know the correlations are very particular, very specific, and not only show what needs to be done, but how. The invitation is to receive the gift and let this temple be a place of the King's habitation so that he can articulate through this particular instrument. And therefore, I am the guardian of this temple, and I have something to do, as we all do, not to let something into our holy place individually, collectively, that works abominations and lies. It's actually quite simple. And it's all housed in the love for the King. First, last, and always. Thank you.
I think today we've just had the most exquisite example of Lucifer, the bright and morning star, shining through us and amongst us. And how strange that the mind of man thinks of Lucifer as Satan. It just gives such indication of how lost man is. But here we are, the bright and morning stars, looking with radiant eyes at our world, holding our worlds in the bonds of love. When there is abomination of desolation, we let the Spirit of the King pour forth into our worlds. And I agree that there is no greater joy than this, to be together and to represent our King. Laura and Pamela, I am delighted so in your expression. Thank you.
I can feel the intensity of the current of the Spirit moving strongly in my own body temple, in my heart. Laura and Pamela, you are so beautiful. What a supreme pleasure to just view you on this screen through these eyes as you read and spoke. I don't think I've ever seen you before. At least it was certainly very new this morning. Being in the kingdom of the King, feeling very much present in his court. invited into his household on occasion. I've seen that there is the presence of one we would call the Queen, always present there as well. Not known to any great degree on earth, because his kingdom and his court and his household and his family hasn't been known to be a reality. But living in his kingdom, it becomes known. She becomes known as he becomes known. To me, to us. In the story of the king, as it's recorded of his time incarnate as Jesus, there were 3 Marys present that are referred to a great degree in that story. Mary, his mother, gets a lot of attention. Mary Magdalene. A lot of opinions about her being written in various books these days. And there is another Mary. Mary of Bethany, she was named then. Yolanda, one who served with the king over the ages in a very direct sense, has told us about her and her spirit. And so, being in the kingdom, her presence and her spirit becomes increasingly vivid as well. I feel her spirit present here this morning. As is the spirit of the one that was in form as Mary Magdalene, and the spirit of the one who gave birth to the man Jesus, his mother. All these 3 spirits of divine woman are present here this morning in the court of the household of the king. And they're one spirit, one with his spirit, even as I find that I know him and know her because I begin to know my own spirit as one with his. One spirit, unwrapped, the gift unwrapped. Even if it's not really unwrapped fully yet, we might say it is wrapped in transparent wrapping. So we can look through the wrapping and see the gift and experience something of the thrill that yet remains when it's fully unwrapped and is right here. If that happens to be where we are, anyone here or out there, this gift is for all, not just 36 of us on here on the line. As a man incarnate on earth, I've known wickedness in my own soul. So it's not just the wickedness out there, the reward of the wicked. I've experienced the reward of the wicked. It helped wake me up to this extent. It's a good thing to experience the reward of the wicked. Might encourage the opening of the gift. Indeed, it did and does. But the main thing is this Almighty Spirit and presence and the reality of what we call the kingdom, heaven, the heavenly reality that we have an opportunity to live in every day, and the exquisite heaven. That you two brought and magnified, which you know so well, obviously, in your own life. How precious to experience the spirit of the Queen present with the King, and always attentive to that great spirit, that it might be brought to the forefront and made known to men and women on earth, and that there can be freedom and release from the bondage of wickedness, and release into the joy and the wonder and the ever new vision of heaven right here, right now. It's been so exquisite being with you and everybody else, letting this new thing appear this morning in the fire of his love and his great giving. Thank you.
David, your words touch our hearts there. And I don't know about you, but a tear came to my eye when you mentioned Mary of Bethany. The depth of what we can share together as one. And we may see reflections of ourselves here on the screen, but actually see all of us as one, as being a part of the wheel of God on earth, of his radiation, of the Lord's radiation. So I give thanks for the time, Pam and Laura. I give thanks for the time that we're all together. And let's hold dear. I can spend all day long on this call. And at the same time, we have lives to live to let radiation, let love radiate. So let's continue in this way, holding dear what we shared,
Steve,
holding fast. Yes.
I wonder if Pamela and Laura might have a few things to say near the end before we close.
Yes, thank you. I have so appreciated this part of the service. It's wonderful to hear you all. I've been thinking about protection. The world is in a very tough place, and we are at least some of the ones that are going to change that. That's going to require some protection of us. I have always been very, very thankful for the protection of the men in this ministry, the ones who hold dear and speak highly of the women in this ministry. It has always been my experience to be acknowledged in that way and have men around that serve and protect. I thank you for that. I also have been thinking during this time, I love what you said, Davina, about it takes something. You bet your boots it takes something. Even after 89 years, it takes something. If we were all doing the very, very most ultimate job, the world wouldn't be the way it is. The world would be different. So I appreciate the humility that's been spoken, along with the protection of a clean consciousness, because it is our own clean consciousness that keeps us protected. It doesn't matter what else is around. If we insist on messing around in the trenches, we'll get hurt. So wonderful to hear the bright lights. In John, the book of John, verse 14, it says, "And the word was made flesh and dwelt among us in truth and in glory." It is the word making flesh that does the job. My word made into flesh. It is says that the body is made up of 75% water. That water is made holy by my thinking when it comes from the King. The flesh is made holy and dwells among that which is not holy. And it's no problem. It's easy. I have friends here at Sun Peaks that you don't say the word God or anything related to it, but they say to me when I express my idea of the future, because they're all talking about the future, so it's a wonderful time. It's going to be a whole new life. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. And they say, "Oh, Laura, I wish we had your confidence." But of course we are confident, because we know we are the ones doing that job. We are in the end game here, folks. It's time to hit a home run. And God always wins, so we can rest in that reality and continue in our own great flesh and radiant thinking.
Thank you, Laura. I was thinking of the protection as well. And I appreciate that coming right towards the end there with Steve and David and Davina, the guardians of that protection. We couldn't speak of these things in a general audience, obviously. They'd be trampled on, they'd be interpreted by the mind. And that would be spoiled. but we can in this safe container of shared substance, of shared spiritual radiance. And I'm just filled with thanksgiving that it is so. There is this container where we can speak things, that the King of Glory can come in. And all of what has been generated in this time together, it ascends before the throne of God. That is the purpose of this container. Bring it all and let it ascend. And carry this with us and know that we will have the spiritual perception, the right timing, to say the right thing, to do the right thing, because we carry the Spirit of the King within us. And it shines forth in our living. So I'm thankful for this outpouring of which we've all participated to the glory of our King. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Laura. again, let's unfold what we shared today. Let it continue in our hearts and just then. Our next Temple of Light service will be on July 25th with John Gray focusing your time. And we'll see you then.